Okay, I'm going to make this as quick as possible. So, little text, little talking, plenty of pretty pictures, and maybe a video or two. So, because I know the bar is calling. The MCRS, the Mobile Community Recycling Service, is an idea I heard of probably about 4 years ago while I was at Blacktown. I heard it through the local government grapevine that the Holroyd guys were developing this idea. I thought they had rocks in their head. Why would they want to start up a mini hazardous waste company or business? And lo and behold, when I did get a job at Holroyd, it was one of my jobs to implement. So talk about karma. So it's obviously an EPA funded program. What's the line? Is it this is initiative funded by the Waste Levy? The typical title we have to have on everything. And was a collaboration between the City of Parramatta, Parramatta City back then, Auburn Council, the former Auburn Council, and the former Holroyd Council. Now, obviously, due to amalgamation, we are Cumberland Council. So I'll just go off. So the question is, I suppose, why would we do this? Go to people's houses and pick up potentially hazardous, dangerous goods. There's a number of reasons, which I'll run through quickly. One of the main reasons is our area is changing significantly, not just our Cumberland area, the Parramatta area, in terms of density. And with density, a lot of people don't have cars, limited transport. So instead of getting people to transport their own waste, why not go to them? I suppose it's just like Pizza Hut back in the day. Why do we get people to come to us for pizzas when we can deliver it? So it's about getting into people's homes. And this 50% is set to certainly rise. We have a new LEP which sets out there's going to, I think it's at least 60 or 70% in the next couple of years in terms of the type of living that we're going to experience in our area. The other fact is the actual waste composition. So prior to getting the grant, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, Holroyd did a bit of data analysis and worked out, and it's not just in the red lid bin and recycling bin, also clean up, that 1.2 tonnes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about the sorts of products we're talking about, paints and other things, it's quite a lot. And our waste does go to an AWT, so people handle it. So it's a thing that we need to consider, is these potentially hazardous items coming in contact with people, so gas bottles, those sorts of things. Plus gas bottles don't necessarily go into compactors very well. When you try to compact a gas bottle, it could turn the truck into a big bomb. So that's another thing we considered. The other thing is risk. So we actually, and Matt will talk a bit about it later on, we actually won an award on risk. But I think Tim sort of mentioned before about dumping. Every council has issues with dumping, especially problem waste, because people know they can't put it in the bin, they know they can't put it out for council clean up, so they'll just sneak out at night and put it in a park or put it in some other funny location and wait for somebody else to do something about it. So risk is the main thing, and also for council staff, as I said before, putting these hazardous items in the back of a compactor. I know myself, I've seen some pretty nasty accidents in the past whereby things have exploded, especially the back of a reloader. It can be very, very risky. So trying to capture that, making a really good opportunity for people to do the right thing with their problem waste. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the design, because we did a bit of research. It's the first of its kind in Australia. In the world, there's another thing called the toxic taxi in America, which sounds pretty harsh. We thought about the name toxic taxi, but it didn't fly, which is fair enough. It sounds like some funky Uber type of Uber service. But yeah, it was I suppose a greenfield idea. So there was nothing to go on. So it was like, hey, how are we going to do this? So obviously the first thing is to set up an MOU between the partners, to have a good understanding about our roles and responsibilities and making sure there's commitment, because obviously the EPA certainly need that commitment because there's a lot of money at stake. We got about $300,000 or $400,000 for this, so having a good MOU that binds everyone together and making sure people aren't going to drop out halfway through, so having a good MOU document. The next is design. As you can see, I use a really, really sophisticated piece of software called Microsoft Publisher. to do the designs. So a lot of this was done by myself because, as I said, there wasn't a lot of expertise in this area, like in terms of council. So I know you can't really see it, you're not really meant to see it because I don't want to sort of showcase my design. I can hand my business cards out later on if you're in the market for a CAD officer or something like that. But no, basically the purpose of this was, especially with Glenn, throughout the process, Glenn and the EPA understanding how we're going to lay this truck out. The next part is obviously construction. One of the key elements was having a really good bodybuilder or truck manufacturer, which we're lucky Mission Australia had a very good relationship with a company called JME Engineering down in Wollongong, and he helped, as in the guy that owns his business, helped try to form or bring our ideas to reality. And one of the other things we used, and I'm glad Tim mentioned a lot before, was the tox-free receptacles, as we all know. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel with trying to design our own approved receptacles, I called up my good old trusty mate Ian Parks and he helped me out, and we used the receptacles for a majority of the goods. And they can be, in terms of manual handling, taken in and out of the truck very easily. And there's the complete truck, as you can see, nicely branded. There's a roller door on the side that a forklift can get access to it. There's another photo here inside. So there's 3 stillages in the actual truck for the paints, both water and oil-based paints and motor oil. And as you can see, there's space for gas bottles, batteries, car batteries down the bottom. So it's been fairly well thought out in terms of especially the ventilation in the back of the truck. The other thing is where we're going to store this stuff when we collect it. So this is sort of a bit of a typical, probably most council depots looked like this before, so it was a bit of a dumping ground. This is at the Holroyd Guildford West Depot, and it literally was a council dumping ground. So if the guys in the depot, what do I do with this? Oh, we'll just chuck it here. So that's probably accumulation over a couple of months. So we needed to clean that up, so we did this. So it's basically a mini CRC. We didn't want to go to the full extent of doing the full-blown CRC. We had a chat with our planners, and they wanted a DA, they wanted a koala impact study, they wanted a whole bunch of other things that were just, it's going to be too time in terms of the time it takes and also the cost. So we did a minor store, under the Australian code. So it suits our purposes. All we do to make sure is we use the drop-off app, which Janet talked about, which is really, really good, and making sure that tox-free come as frequently as possible to make sure we're not exceeding the thresholds we have at the site. Another part of it was the booking system. So how do we actually interact with customers or residents? So my idea was to try and keep it online to make it easy. Instead of, because of the number of councils involved, we didn't want all these hotlines and phone numbers and all that sort of thing. So it was talked about to just have a one-stop shop on a website. I'll talk a little bit about the website later on, but a booking system. So basically people log on the website, www.problemwaste.com.au, put on their details, they select a date, confirmation email, and bang, it all happens. Already. Wow. The other thing is expertise. I think the only probably people in this room is probably Tim and Ian and maybe Glenn that would actually know what that means. It's the dangerous goods code is a minefield, and it's just boggled me. So the main thing was to get good quality expertise, and that's why we got a consultant on board to help us go through the minefield, which is the dangerous goods code. I'll quickly run through the promoting of the service. We had a nice launch with some dignitaries and a lot of PR. We had a sort of a bit of an open day where people could come through. It was a high profile area in Marylands, and that attracted a lot of attention. Collateral, so I think as Janet mentioned previously, the usual flyers, and we did a few mail outs to all our residents. And as I mentioned, the website, there is the booking details. News articles, we have a pin-up boy, Matt Curtis. So whenever we want some sort of model or something like that, we use Matt Curtis because he's so good looking. Really positive news articles, and that relates to actually people that use the service. So this gentleman actually did use the service, and it was a really good news article. Social media, that's another thing we've gone really hard on. And now it's Matt's turn to talk about operating the service.
All right. I'll be quick as well so we can all get out of here on time. differently.
Problem waste is a big problem. Potentially hazardous waste such as barbecue gas bottles, fire extinguishers, paint, batteries, oils, fluorescent lights and smoke detectors end up hidden in general waste collection bins or on a weekend tip run because people either don't know how to dispose of these types of wastes or they want to avoid the cost of disposing of them properly and safely. The Mobile Community Recycling Service offers a straightforward solution, an easy and convenient way for residents to recycle or safely dispose of household problem wastes without even leaving home. This is problem waste management without the fuss. The Mobile Community Recycling Service collects up to 20 kilos or 20 litres of the problem waste from households in the Cumberland Council and City of Parramatta local government areas from Monday to Friday. Residents can request a collection through the simple online booking system on the Council's dedicated problem waste website, www.problemwaste.com.au. They receive a confirmation of the scheduled pickup day and the rest is handled by the Mobile Community Recycling Service. Resource Recovery Australia is proudly operating and managing this initiative with our social enterprise approach. We employ people experiencing disadvantage or barriers to work who will be provided with training and mentoring to be successful operators of this service from day one. Environmental services like this one could focus only on diverting waste from landfill, but we choose to make sure that it serves local people in the community too. It is called the Mobile Community Recycling Service after all. The truck has been designed from the ground up. Aside from being an environmentally friendly hybrid vehicle, the truck body is compact to allow easy access to residential streets, and the loading gate is on the curb side of the truck to allow for safe loading and unloading around traffic. The compartmentalised storage inside the truck means that each type of waste has its own specialised anti-spill container. This means that recovery rates are maximised and the access is as fast and safe as possible for the drivers. Once collection is complete, the truck returns to the Cumberland Council depot and unloads the day's collection into the correct stillages to be processed and recycled, preventing the problem waste from ending up in the general waste stream. The Mobile Community Recycling Service is a highly effective way of lowering Council's landfill maintenance costs and subsequently saves money for ratepayers. In the first 4 months of operation, the Mobile Community Recycling Service has collected over 13 tonnes of problem wastes which have been safely disposed of or recycled into new products. Over 1,500 kilos of barbecue gas bottles, over 1,200 kilos of motor oil, 3,500 kilos of oil-based paint, almost 6,000 kilos of water-based paint, almost 200 kilos of fire extinguishers, over 500 kilos of cooking oils, almost 700 kilos of car batteries, over 100 kilos of household batteries, and almost 150 kilos of other waste such as smoke detectors and light bulbs. Resource Recovery Australia is proud to partner with the team from JME Engineering, New South Wales EPA, Cumberland City Council and the City of Parramatta to design and run this great service. This is a New South Wales EPA Waste Less, Recycle More initiative funded from the Waste Levy.
All right, I apologise for that. I thought that was coming up at the end. All right, so just a brief background about Resource Recovery Australia. We're a not-for-profit organisation, social enterprise, or as we prefer to call it, a profit-for-purpose, waste to wages. We have 25 years experience in the waste industry, but this is new to us as it's sort of new to everyone. All right, so our staff and training. So I'm sort of proud to say all our staff have come from our target group, which is people with barriers to employment. So since we started, we've had 7 staff come through the program. 2 we now have permanent full-time, and the other 5 have moved on to other employment opportunities. And training. So we provide all our staff with training, so we do. Generally they do a dangerous goods awareness course, a dangerous goods licence, forklift licensing, manual handling, spill response and CRC training provided by Tox Free. Some of the challenges we come across, excess quantity left out for collection, which customer has to rebook in, bycatch, items that we don't collect like hydrochloric acids, etc., which they're left with a flyer and for the chemical cleanups around the area. Commercial businesses trying to rot the system and bring their waste home and run it through their residents, which the guys are pretty good on keeping on top of. So some of the achievements is the data's still not current because we've collected quite a bit more since then. We're closer to the 70 tonne now since start of operation. Recognitions, so we were awarded with the AWRE Innovation Product Award last year, and the council received the Sydney Metropolitan Risk Management Award last year also. What's next? So we're looking at council facility drop-off services at the local libraries and community services. And that's some of them there, but we've got a better design now, which we're going to roll out with. And then, yeah, additional, or partnering with additional councils. And that's us.